Couple of brief announcements here. One, please invite your friends, family, enemies, whoever, to everybody to check in with us here on the webinar. The more the merrier. We're getting good questions, and I love getting the word out to as many people as possible. So please let people know. Contact someone today or tomorrow and say, hey, you might want to check this out, because obviously the vast majority of people don't know we're on the air. 99.999% at least. So here we are on another Thursday afternoon, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that's very important to me. It's the kind of thing that isn't generally important to other people until they have a problem with it. And then it's like, oh my goodness, what can I do? So what I want to do is talk to you about catching things early, always. And this is the whole point of Chinese medicine. Well, not the whole point, but a key critical point of Chinese medicine is to treat the illness that is unmanifest, or to treat the unmanifest illness, meaning, well, there are several apocryphal stories, I'm assuming apocryphal, but they're accurate, where a doctor in China is being brought up to get some awards for being such a great doctor, and they're doing speeches about him and how great he is, and he says, oh, I don't deserve all of this attention. He said, I treat, of me because I treat people who are sick and help them get well. But my father was a much greater physician because he would treat people at the very first sign of possible illness. But he paled in comparison to my grandfather, whose patients never got sick, right? And so in our culture, we are an illness-based medical culture. There are many groups that kind of pay lip service to preventive medicine. In my experience, most of them are not very preventive. And where our book is now getting closer and closer to coming out, there's always more stuff, but it's in formatting right now, which means there's only 2 more steps, formatting and a cover, and it will be out. In that, we go into this, how do you look at your own blood tests? And with just a just a basic knowledge, you can look at it and see if you're in the best possible ranges for long-term good health. And you can't get that by looking at a standard blood test, unless it has the functional medical ranges, because the ranges are far too large. They extend well outside of the sweet spot of maximum health. So that's really the point. And so that's why I'm doing this particular talk today. I've had several questions about these issues. And so I want to try to do service to the issue of uric acid. And Catherine sent out a newsletter last week. So we got from that quite a few questions. And then she sent out another newsletter today that went into a little more depth. And so I'm going to go through her newsletter and talk about uric acid and gout. Now, one of the problems is that most people only come to be concerned about uric acid after they develop kidney stones that are debilitating, or gout, which is a horrible condition. It's just, talk about painful. It is really excruciatingly painful. And most people never look at or are concerned with uric acid until those happen. We run a uric acid as a standard test on most of, over 50% of the blood tests that we run. It's a very inexpensive test to add on, and it's a very, very important thing to understand and to know your levels. Now, if someone comes back in a perfect level the first time, we may not run it again, because if you're in a great level, it means you probably don't have the genetic issues that will lead to high uric acid and gout. If you come out anywhere near high or low, then we're going to run that every time we run a blood test. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And we've got a couple questions that came in that I probably am not going to have a chance to get to, because I really want to get any questions on this particular issue. Everybody, please give a big cheer and a round of applause. Today is Catherine's birthday. 29, going on 30. And please wish her a happy birthday. We're going to talk a little bit about arthritic pain in general, but primarily arthritic pain caused by high uric acid levels. And so in the previous newsletter, we talked about the importance of doing a uric acid test and the correlation with arthritic pain. I'm going to go into a little more detail about that. And it's over a century ago, the Scottish physician Haig spoke about the connection between uric acid levels in the body and cardiovascular health. Okay, so he's not saying gout, and he's not saying kidney problems, and he's not saying kidney stones. He's saying cardiovascular health. And the cardiovascular damage done by uric acid is occurring long before someone gets the symptoms of gout. Gout is the more extreme case of this. And about 3 million people in the United States, I believe, about 3 million, test positive for gout, but much higher level of people, you see different estimates. I think the estimates are low because most people are not getting their uric acid tested. But I see it at 4 to 6%. I think it's probably over 10% if people actually got checked for their uric acid. So anyway, it doesn't just cause kidney stones. It doesn't just cause gout. It's also involved in cardiovascular and kidney disorders. So uric acid is an end product of a whole string of metabolic processes. When Catherine first put this in here, she had them all kind of laid out, and you'd have to be a biochemist really to understand a lot of them. But it has to do with the inability to process purines properly. Purines are found in many foods, they're found in alcohol, but things like organ meats are very high. Meat in general is pretty high fructose corn syrup. So quite a few foods that are rich in purines, though certain seafoods. So those purines should get broken down, and they'll break down into xanthine oxidase, and that should be cleared from the system. But with certain genetic problems, that process of breaking down purines and getting rid of xanthine oxidase isn't carried out properly, and we get a buildup of uric acid in the body. And uric acid, as its name implies, is an acid. So your bloodstream and your tissues will become more acidic, which is pretty much always bad, right? You don't want an extremely acidic environment. You would like it to be more alkaline than acidic. And again, as we point out here, as with most blood tests, there's a sweet spot, right? So a U-shaped curve, right? So you take the letter U, and in mortality tables, the highest level or the lowest level actually of mortality will be in this sweet spot right at the bottom of the U. And then as you go up on either side, which means as you go lower or you go higher, either way, the mortality curve kicks in and the death rate is higher. And when you start looking at the sweet spot, which is where people are the healthiest, versus the so-called standard ranges, you can have a massive increase in deaths and still be within the standard ranges. Okay, so it's very important. And low uric acid is also a problem. There's a higher dementia risk, some other risks than a perfect uric acid level. And then as we get higher, then we get all the problems with cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, kidney stones, gout, etc. Now, a uric acid has a whole bunch of physiological effects. So it modulates or regulates immune responses. It regulates blood pressure. Now, there are many factors affecting everything I'm listing here, but uric acid will affect all of these. Controlling the balance between antioxidants and pro-oxidants in the body. Antioxidants, of course, are cleaning up the inflammatory molecules, where pro-oxidants are creating more inflammatory molecules. So basically, either one of two things: excessive intake, that should be intake instead of intact, of foods that lead to high uric acid. So again, those are the purine-rich foods, or by the body's inability to excrete significant levels of uric acid, and generally it's both. You don't process purines well, and you can't pee them out, and most of these are eliminated through urine, some of them through feces, some of it's through feces, but the kidneys have to filter a lot of this. And so again, generally it's a problem of both of those factors. Now, red meat can increase purines, organ meats a lot more even than red meat, some seafood, high fructose corn syrup. One of the worst I've seen for that is beer. Beer is, I have patients that if they have one beer, they can't walk because it kicks up their gout so much. So let's talk about some treatment options. And we're going to look at some pharmaceuticals and then some natural supplements and foods. If you go to your doctor, basically, they will give one of two options. The most common is allopurinol. And allopurinol works on that xanthine oxidase system and helps clear the xanthine oxidase from the system, which keeps the uric acid levels down. And this is very common. Some people take this daily. Some only take it when they have, symptoms of gout. If one is taking it, I think it's probably better to take it more regularly. It's a relatively safe medication, although there is no perfectly safe pharmaceutical. They don't exist. So there are some adverse effects that can occur. One of the things that happens is when people first start taking the medications for gout, it can destabilize some of the uric acid deposits. And so I'm going to go into a little more detail in a minute, but what happens is as the uric acid builds up, if it gets too high, it will throw the pH of your blood off to the point that you could die. So it will come out of saturation and it'll form stones, or actually really, really sharp crystals of urate that get stuck in the joints. Incredibly painful. Now, when those things are stuck in the joints, and there's something else called tophi, which are the same chemical material, but they'll just form like little bumps. A lot of people will have bumps along their feet, and those are tophi, T-O-P-H-I. And as one starts taking these drugs to start breaking down the deposits, it will destabilize them, and certain amount of that uric acid will go back into solution, and could be an increased incidence of acute gout flares, especially in that first few months. So that's not unheard of. Now, allopurinol can increase thyroid stimulating hormone, which might result from subclinical hypothyroidism. So you need your thyroid checked if you're going to be on allopurinol. You should also have your uric acid checked quite often. Now, colchicine is a much stronger drug, and it's for gouty prophylaxis prevention, and usually only people that are pretty serious along the gout spectrum, and then treatment of acute flares. It's primarily anti-inflammatory, but it has quite a few toxic effects. Again, I'm not going to go into what this means necessarily, but it actually affects proliferating tissue or fast growing tissue, it has an effect on them and changes how cell division occurs. The most common adverse reactions are GI problems, but there are some others also. Now, although medications are the most common form of treatment, research has shown that there are some amazing herbs and supplements that have been shown to lower uric acid levels. And if it lowers uric acid levels, it will lower gout problems. Now, kind of when we're looking at gout, as the uric acid goes up, the crystals will form in solution. Then the crystals will come out of solution and get into the joints. When that happens, the body sees that as a foreign invader, so it sends white blood cells out to attack it. The crystals then pop the cells, actually, and the cells release proteins, which are cytokines, interleukins. They're chemicals that increase inflammation quite radically. And one of their purposes is it's like a fire. You send out the first fire truck and they say, oh, we can't handle this. And so they send in more alarms to the fire station. So at this point, when the cell releases those chemicals, it sends out a messenger or messengers that they need more white blood cells, which causes more inflammation and more pain, which that causes the pH level to go down, become more acidic, which causes more crystals to form. So it's a really nice circular process, or a really evil circular process, if you wish. And so what we see is there are basically 4 levels of gout. One is the increase in uric acid. That is silent. You won't know it. It's damaging your blood vessels, damaging the kidneys, forming kidney stones, forming the crystals, but it has not risen to the point where you're having pain from any of those. Then you get an acute attack, which is where you could get a gout attack. The most common location, about 50% of the time, the attack is in the great toe, in the joint. It'll get hot and red and incredibly painful. But gouty deposits can happen anywhere. They can happen in your neck. They can happen in your wrists. They can happen in your ankles. I've had patients who had huge stones cut out of their thigh, which the doctor had no idea that was there. They just saw something and they opened them up and there was this huge gout crystal. So it can go anywhere. But if you wake up with a red, swollen toe, especially the big toe, assume you have gout and get some treatment for it. So the third stage of gout is called intercritical. So that's when you're not having an acute attack. The uric acid is still high, but it's not acute. You're not having this huge inflammatory response. And then the fourth stage is chronic. And that's where you form the tophi, the little lumps, you form kidney stones, etc. So that's kind of where that goes. Now, when I talked about those proteins that are getting released, they're chemical messengers, cytokines, interleukins. Those can be tested for. I mentioned this in a couple of broadcasts. Those can be tested for. And those are things that actually will cause inflammation. And so the gout itself may calm down, but you may still be releasing the interleukins. In my case, I have gout. I have stage 3 arthritis in my right foot, meaning the bones are somewhat decayed. But if I eat all the right things, don't eat the wrong things, and take a couple of supplements, I'm pain-free. Okay, so I'm living proof that this stuff actually works. And I'm going to talk about what some of those supplements are. But first, get your uric acid tested. It should be on every test that's run. It's less than $5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very inexpensive. So your orthomolecular research, which is one of my favorite companies, I think they have probably the best research arm. We have a couple of 3 or 4 companies that have very good research and science departments, but I really like orthomoleculars a lot. And they've recently come out with a new supplement called UAX Pro. And the thing I love about UAX Pro is that because I'm like many of you, and I don't like taking a lot of capsules and pills, this one capsule, actually, I usually take 3, but this one thing replaces 4 other things that I used to give to people, and very effectively. And so it's much, much easier to use. The compliance is much higher. And again, very effective. Now, there's tons of science around this, each of these individual ingredients. So, randomized controlled trials, they found that vitamin C supplementation has a very significant effect on lowering serum uric acid levels. Our old buddy, vitamin C, right? There's a 20-year-old study that was in the Archives of Internal Medicine. 47,000 males found that those taking vitamin C had a 44% reduced incidence of uric acid. If you reduce uric acid by 44%, you're pretty much guaranteed of never having a gout attack, right? That's almost miraculous. And of course, vitamin C does so many other magnificent things, and it's so inexpensive. And I have to apologize. I've been recommending vitamin C for 50 years, and it's kind of my assumption that people are taking it. So sometimes I forget to suggest that people take it. It's just kind of built in. It's like, don't forget to drink water and breathe and then pee occasionally, right? It's just so much a part of the background. So vitamin C, very effective at reducing uric acid. Quercetin. We went through massive amounts of quercetin over the last 3 years with the pandemic. Quercetin is a very powerful zinc ionophore. It pulls zinc into the cells, stops or at least greatly limits the replication of viruses, but it does tons of other things. Now, quercetin is found in a lot of the foods that you eat, onions, apples, etc., but you'd have to eat a bushel of apples to get the amount of quercetin that you need to deal with the gout. Okay, we use quercetin, massive amounts of quercetin. It inhibits advanced glycation end products. Cool, huh? Ages. So glycation end products, glycation is a process where sugar gets attached to things. And generally in the body, we worry about it when it gets attached to the red blood cells, but also to some other proteins, and they are massively harmful, create harmful oxidative byproducts, and just really nasty. And quercetin inhibits a lot of those. Quercetin has been shown to inhibit the actions of xanthine oxidoreductase. Don't need to remember that, which is the limiting step in the body's production of uric acid. So when they say a limiting step, it means if this is present, it limits how much will be produced. In one 2016 study, daily quercetin at 500 milligrams resulted in significantly lowered uric acid levels. Now, we typically, during the pandemic, have recommended 400 to 500 milligrams of quercetin as an antiviral and for other reasons. The study of individuals at risk for cardiovascular challenges showed a statistically significant effect of quercetin in maintaining blood pressure, okay, at the proper ranges. Now, we know that uric acid in excess will contribute to high blood pressure, and here we're seeing that if we're doing quercetin, it will help lower that blood pressure. Here's my new favorite. You know, every month I've got a new favorite, and like my favorite inflammatory chemical is interleukin-6. I find it everywhere, and it's it's what I have. And if I take supplements that limit interleukin-6, I don't have pain. If I get cocky or forget to take my supplements to keep my interleukin-6 levels down, then I suffer. So that's my favorite interleukin, inflammatory chemical for this month. Luteolin is my favorite antioxidant and bioactive ingredient for this month. Now, luteolin's been known for a long time, but the research there's been a surge in research lately. Again, it's in fruits, it's in vegetables, it's all over the place. One of the richest sources is actually olive oil. I've recommended olive oil for a while, decades, but now I'm recommended even more because of the luteolin content of it. It's one of the two major chemicals that we look for in the olive oil, and is probably the luteolin content is one of the major factors in the Mediterranean diet, extending lifespan and lowering inflammation and pain. So the luteolin. And again, this inhibits that enzyme that we talked about, the xanthine oxidase reductase enzyme. So very powerful for that. This alone has been shown to have uric acid lowering properties that are comparable to traditional therapies, traditional not being actually traditional, but being drugs, right? It's as good as the drugs. If you add these all together, they're astonishingly effective. And each one of them independently is good for you. Luteolin is good for you. Quercetin is good for you. Vitamin C is good for you. And they all help prevent gout and high uric acid. In this one double-blind placebo-controlled study from 2017 of people with uric acid problems, it found that if you ingested luteolin for 4 weeks, it tremendously decreased serum uric acid levels. It's a flavonoid, and flavonoids are really a hot topic because they help to maintain normal inflammatory balance and antioxidant properties. And luteolin specifically has shown to be liver protective against uric acid-free radical stress. So again, you should be hearing that uric acid damages everything. Another ingredient is tart cherry. Most people do tart cherry juice. They contain anthocyanins. So any of those blue, purple colors, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries even, have high anthocyanin levels. And that's what gives them the color. And these have tons of health benefits, including lowering uric acid levels. One study showed that a low dose of tart cherry powder decreases uric acid and supports kidney function. Another study in 2021, it showed that tart cherry decreases uric acid, and a single capsule is very effective for lowering uric acid. Then we get to one of our favorites here, celery. Celery has been known to reduce pain for hundreds of years, and it's probably primarily through lowering uric acid levels, and so it helps maintain normal inflammatory balance. Specifically, celery seed has been shown to reduce levels of the xanthine oxidase issues. And so I've been taking celery seed extract capsules for a while. Usually, I'm just like my patients. I will forget it until I start feeling bad, and then I'll pump it up again. Celery seed you need to do as an extract. I've never found anybody that can actually eat celery seed. It's so bitter. Eating a lot of celery is helpful. We know that celery is good for the heart. And again, part of that is because it lowers uric acid levels. So it also increases what's called superoxide dismutase, or SOD, and glutathione peroxidase, two of the major, very powerful antioxidants that reduce inflammation in the system. Okay, cool words. Okay, apple polyphenols. In a study here where they gave patients 300 milligrams of apple polyphenols, they found, so get this, a positive effect on vascular oxidative stress, okay? Oxidative stress on your vascular system, very bad. That leads to heart and cardiovascular and brain problems. It helped endothelium function. So that's the lining of the blood vessels got healthier. In a future show, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the glycocalyx, which is now the hot new topic in cardiovascular stress. And it helps maintain healthy blood sugar, again, by the XOD issues. Now, it's really important to do this. If you have gout or you have a tendency toward kidney stones, then see your natural practitioner. Western medicine does not have totally safe treatments for any of these. Um, uh, Alternative medicine does. We have things that are effective and are very safe and are health giving beyond their benefits of lowering uric acid levels. Okay, so love to talk about this forever. It's such a big issue. And again, there's a CytoDX panel that can be run to see for a little over $200 that goes through many, many of these interleukins and cytokines to see if any of those are high in you in particular. Very good panel. Any more I want to say about uric acid, Catherine?
No, but there was a comment that luteolin and quercetin are shockingly molecularly similar.
That's correct. Yes.
You may not hear me.
Oh, there was a comment that luteolin and quercetin were very, very similar. I believe there's only one spot where they actually differ. They're extremely similar, but they are different enough that they have slightly different qualities, but both great. Yeah.
Yeah. And someone's asking me, what is that panel?
CytoDX. Yeah, it's called a CytoDX, CYTO DX. We ordered that from a company called Rupa, and it's very simple. If you want to run it, we just give them your contact information. They contact you with everything you need to have, and they handle everything from there. And then they send us the panel. We found it very informative. We've had patients that were given very strong drugs for example, TNF alpha, which is one of the major inflammatory chemicals. Turns out they didn't have high TNF alpha. They had high interleukin 6. So the drugs they were given would have been very potentially damaging and they wouldn't have done any good. And we were able to give them supplements for interleukin 6 that were very powerful. I mean, CoQ10, coenzyme Q10, and lithium orotate, just kind of off the top, fish oil, are all very powerful to lower interleukin 6. So once you find out what the problem is, there are treatments for it.
It's with Diagnostic Solutions.
And the company is called Diagnostic Solutions, but we order it through another company called Rupa, R-U-P-A. We love them. They're very efficient, very effective at what they do, and they really work hard to keep costs down. These tests, I don't know, I never priced them actually, but they would have been $5,000 or $6,000. There was one panel that had 2-3 of them that was $600 just a few years ago. So we're talking thousands of dollars down to about $250, I think. Yeah. So huge difference. So anyway, get your uric acid tested.
And how can they get it tested?
Uric acid?
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna go to your medical doctor or your naturopath or anybody else who does a blood test, ask them to add on uric acid. If they give you a bad time, point out that it's less than $5 and it can really be very, very illustrative of a lot of health issues, and have them do it. We order them all the time. We can actually order any tests that you might need. The downside is if we order it, your insurance won't pay for it. The upside is we get incredibly inexpensive tests. We belong to a couple of clubs where we can get huge panels done for about $50 to $60. In fact, we can get your common panels, the complete blood count and your metabolic panel, done, including the blood draw, for less than $30. Mm-hmm. So, the price of testing has come down a lot. We pay a fee every year to get the costs down even further. But yeah, any medical provider can order that test. You can actually order it yourself. There are a variety of online testing associations now. Life Extension has that, and lab tests online, you can do it. So it's pretty easy to come by, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And a couple of announcements. Once again, it's Catherine's birthday. Yay. And
Yay.
two, for those of you that are our patients, we have hired a new really good acupuncturist who's works in all areas. She does a lot of sports medicine, but again, fertility, has a good experience in fertility and facial issues. She does a lot of facial needling, as Catherine has done also. And we have a great setup for those things here. And the really fun thing, her name is Gabby, and Gabby will be starting work at the end of this month, and she's going to be available on Sundays as well as a few days during the week. But it's really nice to get someone in here on Sundays because I know my Saturdays are full, and it's often people can't come during the week. So anyway, we're looking forward to having Gabby come on board.
Yay.
Any other? I think I'm not going to, there were a couple other questions. I want to thank people for sending them, but they would require a little bit too long an answer for me to go into today. All right. So I want to thank you. I'll be back next Thursday. We've got a very exciting topic next Thursday. I'm giving you a little leader here, kind of a little tease. It's a very important topic. It's something that literally affects every single human being and is critical for your health. So how's that for a tease, huh? So I'll be back at 3 o'clock next Thursday, and please be happy, be healthy.